we've talked about what it would be like to have family members living in the same household as us, and some of the things that we would have to give up, like less privacy, for instance.
No, not as much time walking around the house naked.
Yeah. But, if you're walking around the house naked but depressed, what's the point of that? Hello and welcome to the Merriment podcast, hosted by me, Carly Jansen, and my life partner, Johnny. In this episode, we are exploring a theme that has become an especially hot topic in our lives since having a baby, but it kind of always had been there. How to find your village or your tribe in a modern world. We use the terms village and tribe kind of interchangeably in this episode, and they do have technical differences, but for our purposes, we're referring to that sense of connectedness and tight-knit community. We love hearing what you have to contribute to the conversation, so please feel free to add your thoughts afterwards on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Just search Carly and Johnny to find us. Thanks for listening, and join the merriment.
And we're off.
All right.
Okay, you seem pretty hot right there, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Right on.
Not at all. I wasn't peeking there, was I?
No, but you seem louder than me.
Peking duck.
Cha-cha-cha. It's a competition. Okay, this is good. Peking duck? What is that?
I think it's served in Chinese restaurants.
Do you know anything else, or is this just duck?
I know how it's spelled.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not peeking over like a ridge or something.
That's the first thing I thought is they serve it to you and it's peeking over something. Like it's peeking over a bowl.
I think it must be from like a region or something. It's spelled Peking.
Okay. Peking duck. Well, Next time we'll have to get that and then talk about it.
I'm just always going to think about this duck that's just like one eye peeking over the roast dish.
I bet that exists. I bet that has to exist somewhere where they made
a Peking duck?
Yeah, like a restaurant was really cheeky, and they're like, we need to make this Peking duck a Peking duck.
Yeah, maybe, but I just feel like it's so doubtful that they served a duck with the head attached. Yeah,
I'm sure it's possible. I don't know. We'll look into it. We'll do a Google search and
we'll
circle back next week. And if it isn't, we'll make it for dinner, and we'll upload a photo.
That's more of an
Peking duck. Well, it doesn't have to have a head. It could just be like peeking.
Remember we were going to take a picture of ourselves?
Oh, yeah.
To prove that we actually podcast? Here we go. I'm going to make this a selfie.
And there we go. Hi, we're recording.
Oh, no.
Now it's working.
Did I do it? Oh, it did a flash.
All right.
Wow. Yeah, I'm really good at using my new phone here.
Yeah.
So here we are. We're enjoying a couple of beverages each.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have like a specific theme for this podcast, which is why right now we're drinking wild raspberry hibiscus tea.
Oh.
Because I feel like this is what I would drink if I lived in a village.
Oh. We're talking about villages.
We're talking about villages today and finding your tribe kind of thing in the absence of a village.
So not like a village in a specific area, like village meaning a group of people, your people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, interesting.
That's a good metaphor, but I mean, village living would be pretty sweet in some ways.
It reminds me of in Chilliwack. What are the Yellow Deli? The people that run the Yellow Deli.
Oh yeah, it's like a commune, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a commune.
Mm-hmm.
They seem really happy and really low. They seem kind of stoned, but I know that they're not actually stoned. But if you get a chance to go to the Yellow Deli in Chilliwack, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a 24-hour establishment too. Delicious, like in-house made breads and just super non-pretentious, and yeah, it's very cool.
It's pretty awesome because they're serving the community by being open 24 hours so that they can serve police officers or people who work in the industry.
Nurses, night shifters, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And they definitely understand community, and they understand, like, maybe they recognize that there was a little bit of a hole in their community, and then they decided to fill it, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, totally. Well, and so that's what we're going to get into more of. But first, we're also going to mention this cool whiskey that we found, because we have a drink with every podcast. And so this time we have something called Canadian Centennial. And what's cool about this is I was in our neighborhood liquor store, and I love these guys because they always have like great suggestions. They actually know what they're talking about. And once again, you know, one of the guys comes and walks up and he's like, "Do you need help?" And normally I would just be like, "No, just browsing." But I was like, these guys are pretty good. So like, I'm looking for a whiskey that's not like it's a sipping whiskey, but it's not too sweet. And he was like, actually, there's two great whiskeys that nobody knows about that is award-winning and, is pretty good price. And so he pointed out this one as one of them. So now we're having it. I'm like, dang, it's actually really good.
Centennial.
Canadian Centennial, it's called.
Wow. Well, cheers to the Canadian Centennial.
It's actually very nice to sip.
Mm-hmm. It goes down easy.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? Actually, one thing that I really love about this place that we go to get our alcohol, because it's like 2 blocks away, is this kind of like neighborhood feel that you get when you go to the same place all the time. And you've got these people that you see them, like the guy who recommended this whiskey's named Spence. Oh,
I know Spence. Yeah, I see him all the time. And we actually talk we update each other on what's happened in our lives previously.
It's so nice. And like you don't, especially when you live in a city, like you really don't get that very much at all.
I mean, more recently, a year ago when we had Forrest, the night I told this story on the podcast where the night before Forrest was born, Kyle and I, we had we drank this ridiculously strong beer and we got really drunk. And it was that night that I bought it there and they recommended it, but they're like, be careful with this beer. And then the next or a couple days later, I went back and I was like, you guys, that night, my wife went into labor.
Oh, that's so cool. And so they oh man. And
Yeah.
I bet you, like, I wonder at what point, because you and I go in there separately all the time and we'll chat up. We both separately will chat up these guys. And so I wonder at what point they started to put together, oh, okay, so when that girl comes in, or the guy she's talking about is this guy, and the guy, girl he's talking about is that girl.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's really fun.
And then also, more recently, the night, actually the day that we found out that Kyle passed away, I went in and he had met Kyle and he had known the whole birth story. And so all I had to do was just say, hey, you remember my friend
Kyle?
My gosh. And then he's like, yeah. I was like, he passed away. And he was like, there was some of that, like a little bit of that support too.
Yeah.
So
wow. Oh my gosh. That's like the epitome of building up this community that you actually like support each other. So what we're going to talk about with this podcast is something that we've talked about a lot, especially over the past year. Kind of the absence of a village, like our modernized society right now. We're very isolated from each other compared to how it used to be. Like when we were riding through the mountains of Laos, just like endless villages that we would come across, and they're living in extremely close quarters. They all totally rely on each other for making sure that they get food, and they share meals, and there's just so many ways that they help each other out that we don't really have in this day and age. And once you have a baby, man, that's really apparent that we don't have this village that normally would be there to help you with things. Like tomorrow, I just found out tonight that I have like a voice audition that I have to go to tomorrow morning, and with a village, it would be like whoever's around, grandma or then this person, whatever.
Yeah.
It would be no big deal. It'd just be like, okay, I'm just going to jump out of here for an hour and then I'll be back. But because we don't have that type of village that, was very big part of our lives thousands of years ago, or not even thousands, like hundreds of years
50.
ago. 50 years ago. Yeah. So we're just left with a whole bunch of difficulties.
Yeah.
Things that are a lot harder when you don't have people around you to support you.
Yeah, and it's just a little bit more of an effort to build that. And I feel like in the countries we visited in Southeast Asia, it was just went without saying. You help out your neighbor. You help, like you live with your family. It's obvious. Whereas now we almost have to make plans to be a community. So if you want to come over and help us with the baby, we need to make that a plan and we need to put it in the schedule.
Yeah.
It's not as much like just you kind of the doors open policy. It's like we're very specific about, okay, we need to make sure that this is a plan, that we all agree on this. Whereas it's less of a free flow relationship. It's
such a hard thing to unravel because, we didn't ever live in this like village life, and it's something that's really easy to romanticized, because I know we've talked about like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to live in a small town where there's, one cafe that everybody goes to, and you get your milk from the neighbor down the street and your eggs from the other neighbor down the street, and all of these things that just feel so much more personal, and it feels like everybody, you're needed in some way. Everybody has something that they bring to the table. But I mean, obviously we have modernized in a lot of ways that are better than before, so I don't think it's that we necessarily want to go back to how it was. Right. It's just that we need to like give credit to how important the community aspect and that, tribal aspect was to our lives and like to our genetic makeup,
And it's funny, at first glance, or when you first hear about, or when you kind of understand what a tribal life would be, or not tribal, like a life that's more like a village would be like, from our perspective, it might be initially a little bit jarring, like, no, I wouldn't want that. An example would be when we were in the Philippines, for your brother's wedding, your brother's in-laws were just like, please just stay at our house. And it's a lot of, how many people are in their house? It wasn't even that big of a house.
It was crazy how many people stayed there. I think there was like 16 people.
Yeah, and his in-laws just slept in this tiny little room on the floor, and they were happy to do it, and they cooked us meals every night, and they didn't care. And meanwhile, we were like, I can't believe they're letting us do this. It's just like, this is crazy. And we are all kind of like, I would never want this to happen. And it was like, we kind of rejected it at first, but to them it was like, no, we love this.
Walang problema.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the favorite sayings in the Philippines, which I love. It means no problem. No problem. Well, walang problema. No problem.
And we didn't really understand that, because in the West we really respect each other's privacy and independence, and it's like we're very clear about that. That's why like an open door policy isn't really, we don't really have one.
Yeah. I mean we did once Forrest came along especially for a while there. It was like, whoever wants to come over and help out, like, please just come. It
was kind of draining though, because when people would come out, there's always all of a sudden like we're here and you're hosting us. There's almost like a weight, because
there's all of this propriety. That really, there's all this propriety that because we're not functioning in our daily lives together all the time, that now that we're seeing each other today, do you want some tea, or the house has to be extra clean, and all of these things that it just ends up adding more pressure. That it's like, I love your extra help right now, or hands to hold the baby, but also the propriety that I feel to make sure that you're entertained and make sure that you have the things you need, and that my house isn't a mess when you get here. That's actually more work for me.
Yeah. Oh man. So how do we break the mold? How do we, like, for instance, we have neighbors. We have lots of neighbors. We only really have spoken to one of them, and it's usually in passing while we're already going to our other plans. So how do we...
It is hard, isn't it? Because
it's scary a little bit.
Our neighbors downstairs are awesome, and it feels like we have kind of developed a little bit of a tribe with them. They've babysat Forrest for us before, and in fact, Sean is going to be stepping in and taking care of Forrest for me tomorrow, so I can go to that voice audition, which is awesome. But then we've got these neighbors across the street, and it's an Indian family. It's kind of like, I want to say multi-generational, but it's not exactly. It's families living together. I think it's a brother and a sister with their younger families.
And their parents too.
Their parents are there too?
Yes.
Okay. So, and we've seen them, and it's crazy for me to see how they function, because the other day, one of the ladies got home in the car with some Tim Hortons, and I said, hey, and I was out in the front yard, and she goes back in the house, and I know she's the one with the 5-month-old baby. Her husband comes out and gets in the car, and then she runs out to talk to him. And she stood there talking to him for like 5 minutes. And I just thought to myself, when I had a 5-month-old baby, I could not just run out to the car and talk to you for 5 minutes. That was just not an option.
Wow.
And it's just those tiny little things in your daily life when you have a baby that you just aren't able to do because you don't have somebody else around to just like quickly be that pair of hands, like for you to shower or some of your very primal needs you are kind of robbed of. And so that's one of the ways that once you have a baby, you just, that the lack of the village feels really prominent.
Oh yeah, because for most of the human civilization, we've had a village or a community that's helped you raise the baby, and so that maybe that's a reason why babies seem so high maintenance now.
Totally,
is because it was way easier to handle that when you're living with your grandma and grandpa were in the next room, or
and your cousins, like when they've got other kids to play with, that's a huge thing.
Oh yeah, when we were in Bali, it was amazing because we got welcomed into one of the village from Madi Ben. He invited us in, and it was amazing to see just all of the family right there, and everybody was so relaxed, and everybody shared everything, and it was really
so
cool.
Beautiful. Like we've got a picture of this grandmother braiding her granddaughter's hair for this ceremony that she was going to be doing, because they have lots of traditions as well, which is a huge part of a village and something that we really lack in our modern way of living. She's braiding her hair, and they make their own liquor, which is totally illegal here, but for them it's just this lovely tradition that they all share together, and it's not
illegal here. You can totally make your own beer.
I guess you just aren't allowed to sell it.
They weren't selling it though. Yeah. You can do that. We should do that.
Okay.
We actually have a kit to make our own ciders in the garage right now.
Okay, we need to set this conversation aside because we got to talk about this later.
Right. We'll talk about this later. Sidetrack.
Yeah,
that's
but
just
so
a little
families...
taste on what our conversations are normally like.
Tangential, very much so.
Like great, but we have to kind of stay
on track.
So,
but in Bali, this village that and it was way outside of the tourist areas. Made Ben, we had a scooter, and he directed us where to go. He's riding on his motorcycle in front of us, and his family all lives in this. I think it's a couple of houses next to each other with a courtyard. And they just share everything, but not just meals and, manual labor and things like that. They share all of their funds. So our friend Ben, he worked at this hotel that we had been staying at, and we told him we really want to get to know the culture more and see more things. And he's like, well, you can come hang out at my village, and we've got this, tooth cutting ceremony that you can come to. And it was amazing that he invited us in. And we found out later that his job at the hotel, all of the money he gets from that just goes into the family pot. And if anybody wants anything, when he wanted to get his motorcycle, he had to pass it through the whole family in order to make sure that that everybody had to agree that was worth the family funds.
Wow. Yeah.
And it seems like it's so limiting and so boundaried to imagine that being put on us now. Mm-hmm. But they were so happy. They were
so happy and really relaxed, just so, and then stress free. Mm-hmm. And they were, I imagine they would be there for each other in an instant, if for mourning or anything. And even we felt it a little bit too, because at that exact time is when we got into a motorcycle accident. Mm-hmm. Nothing too serious, just some really bad
road rash.
Road rash, and they were really concerned about us, and we felt it because it was the next day that we actually went for suckling pigs, so we actually shared a meal with the whole family, and they all showed genuine concern over us, and it felt really good.
Actually, yeah. Really, to have somebody, I feel like if that hadn't happened, if we didn't have that type of concern, although the people at the place we were staying at were just fussing over us as well when we came back. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
They're just such caring people in Bali. It was amazing. And I really, truly think it's because everybody is getting what they need psychologically from the way that they live. They've got everybody. Okay, so I did a bit of research on this topic.
Oh,
And so there are actual health benefits to having a tribe and to having this kind of social connection in your life. There was this study that was done in a place called Roseto, Pennsylvania. So this is in the 1960s. It was a small town, mostly of Italian immigrants, but they were kind of surrounded by English and Welsh people who didn't really like them. So they were really forced to just band together. They all pretty much worked at the same place. They lived on the same one big street. And so every day after work, they'd walk down this street, maybe have a glass of wine with their neighbor, and then, maybe gossip with the neighbors, whatnot. And then they would change into their dinner clothes, and then they would have communal dinners together. And all the women would be gathering in the communal kitchens, preparing their classic, like spaghetti and meatballs kind of thing. They'd push their tables together, and everybody would get together over these like big Italian dinners. And like they weren't healthy dinners. It was just like sausage fried in lard and like wine flowing like crazy.
I mean, that seems pretty healthy to me.
Yeah?
Yeah, well,
Pasta?
No, well, yeah, maybe not. I mean, and did you say that they?
Well, I was getting there. You were going on a tangent there.
Oh yeah, man, you gotta reel me in.
All right, here we go.
Reel me right in.
So these people are living in like multi-generational homes. This is very normal in the 1960s Rosetto. They go to church together. They wander into each other's kitchens. They all celebrate holidays together. Smoking, drinking booze every night, tons of like bad diets. And they had half the risk of death by heart attack as the rest of the country.
Wow.
And when researchers were doing all of this, like looking into it, they concluded that love and intimacy and being part of a tribe was protecting their health.
Wow.
So like this one sociologist, John Brune, says there was no suicide, there's no alcoholism, no drug addiction, and very little crime. They didn't have anyone on welfare, and they didn't really have anybody with peptic ulcers. Basically, everyone was just dying of old age when they died, and that was all.
Wow.
So like all of these things that come into your life, oftentimes I think stress is a huge factor, and I think that having this kind of village, like this type of support, really helps to release that stress.
Yeah. Well, man, the Beatles said it. All you need is love, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then actually the sad thing about this Rosetto story is, everything has to change. Everything grows. And so they did. Like the younger generation was bored about this. They're like, you guys are making us immune to modernization, and we want to, grow and get educated. So they went to college, and they came back with their bigger ideas, and they married out of, non-Italian people. And there was like the death to the multi-generational homes, and suddenly people weren't, they had to call each other up to see each other instead of just wandering into their kitchens. And now people aren't hanging out with each other and having communal dinners at night. They're watching TV instead. And slowly this like village, this way of living just kind of started to break up. And by 1980, they had reached the national average of death by heart disease.
Oh, geez. And it's the same, like genetics, same people, probably the same diet, maybe even a little bit healthier.
Yeah. Because that was becoming more popular.
Yeah.
To eat healthy.
Oh, man.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, that is wild.
So.
It makes a lot of sense if like, because of it. Well, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't make sense to conventional logic where it's like you eat healthy, you exercise, that's all you need to do. Whereas
it feels like a more holistic look at where disease and death comes from. It's like everything's kind of connected to each other. And when you think that, the way that I see it is, I don't have all the skills, all the best skills to run a household or to run my life. There are a lot of skills that you have that I don't, but we still don't have all the skills that make, a household function as well as it could. And a household can't really have everything that's going to function as well as a community could. So once you have that all tight knit and close together, then you are all kind of like filling each other's voids. A lot of pressure comes off of you in some areas where you can actually feel needed in other areas that you have those skills to offer.
Oh, yeah. And it's the feeling to be needed is really important.
Totally.
And it adds value to your life. You feel valued. Like you exist for a purpose. Where I imagine a lot of people in the work that they do, like if you're unsatisfied with your job and you're spending 8 hours a day on that, then you don't feel like you have a real role to play in your community or even in society. I
think that's actually where a lot of, this is me just speculating, but I would imagine a lot of mental illness and a lot of depression would come from, when you don't feel like you know where your purpose is.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know where you're even needed.
Wow. Yeah. And a lot of the time, I think if you're depressed, you're not going to make that extra effort to get what you need, and you're not going to take that extra effort to go seek out community and seek out friends, and you'll just probably hole up and watch TV all the time or sulk in your own place. Whereas if we had a community, people would be very aware of everybody's mental health, and then probably do something about it if they know,
Absolutely.
So
because you've got more witnesses around you who actually care about you, who are going to, know you very well in order to figure out how to lift your spirits. And what was that story you told me about? Actually, I don't remember if it was you who told me, but it was it in Cambodia when they were trying to understand what antidepressants were? And they thought it was a cow.
Oh, right. Yes. It was Cambodia was one of the last. Oh, you totally gave away the punchline.
It's not supposed to be a punchline, is it?
Oh yeah, not a punchline, but the best part of the story. It was in Cambodia because it was one of the last countries that antidepressants kind of went around to, and they were trying to explain to the doctors what antidepressant pills are, and because they didn't quite understand, and then they thought, okay, so this is how we understand antidepressant. There's a story of this man who worked in the fields, and he walked over a landmine, and it injured him really badly, so he couldn't work and he couldn't provide for his family, and so, but he still had to, but it was really, really hard, and he didn't get as much work done, and it was really painful, so he was really depressed, and he would cry all the time, and they figured out the solution was to give him a cow, because that could be a source of income. He can, get milk from it, and do whatever you do with a cow to make money in Cambodia. I don't know. I've never had a cow before. But so they basically said, so a cow, that would be an antidepressant, because you give somebody meaning, you're solving their problem. Whereas in this day and age, we don't really look at the source. We just say, oh, this is a chemical imbalance. Which, don't quote me on this, but I've heard through podcasts, through Joe Rogan's podcast recently. So it's like, oh man, the layers. But there's actually not a lot of scientific backing. Like, a lot of scientists don't even agree with the idea that it's a chemical imbalance in your brain. There's not a lot of proof to show that.
I imagine that it's actually way more complex than a chemical imbalance.
Yeah.
Because when you think about how still biologically we are wired for the more, village tribal living that we, that our skills can be more fluidly applied in that type of setting. Now in this modern society, it's like, what are you going to do with your life? So what are you going to be?
Yeah.
It's like you have to choose
you.
one thing. The number of times that I have gotten hung up so often because I can't just choose one thing. It doesn't feel like I'm just here to do this one thing. I only write, or I only do this thing. It's like I'm a complex human being. I have a lot of skills that I want to apply, and we're not really serving that part of our nature with this, capitalistic, like, do your one thing to make money and that's what you're good at.
Yeah.
Maybe you do a second thing as your hobby. This
is your value. This is, this is very clearly defined your role in society, and you need to stick to that. Whereas you're like, to feel valued, I imagine feels much more dynamic. It's you as a person. It's you as a whole. It's how you plug into an entire community. So you mean something different for all these people that are around you.
Totally. I think there's...
And I think it is just like the ability to be there for people and just kind of very efficiently all rally for somebody. And if you're having a hard time, that kind of happens to you too. It's just very natural. And it feels good for both parties. It happened recently with the recent passing of Kyle, one of our friends, notorious for kind of shutting people out, especially when
going through
a hard time. And for the first time, we all just decided to buy a bunch of groceries, a bunch of friends of ours, and we bought some groceries and we just showed up at his place.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up being really awesome and really healing. But that's something that most likely would have never.
Taboo.
Yeah, and who says it's up to that person to make all of those plans? That's a lot of stress. That's a lot of effort, right? To make those type of arrangements, especially in this city.
Yeah.
Where everybody's so spread out, and it's not,
Oh my gosh! Imagine arranging all of those people to come over, and asking for help is really hard to do.
It's really
too.
hard, yeah.
And so that is one of those components of having your village or your tribe. It's like, you don't need to be asked to help because everybody sees that you need help and they just step in.
Yeah. Oh man. That sounds so nice.
I know, hey?
But it also seems so far away.
I know.
How do we harness that? How do we create that? But it feels like the ultimate version of that is getting like a communal house and committing to something like that.
I definitely have not ruled that out. Like we've talked about eventually if we were able to afford getting a house anywhere even like proximal to the city and to get something that has like an in-law suite so my mom could live there, and maybe even a place with property so my sister can live on the property too, and maybe my brother, and these pie in the sky ideas. And
but I think it's beyond just family. It's about having a really consistent casual relationship with everybody in your proximity. I think it's pretty crazy that we have so many neighbors, and we speak to our downstairs neighbors, our ones to the left of us, and one neighbor across the street. Other than that, I can't think of another neighbor we've met on this busy on a populated street in Vancouver.
It is, you know what? I have to say, I've heard a lot of people talk about Vancouver as being an unfriendly city. A lot of people who don't live here, but then also a lot of people, a lot of people who weren't raised here, but even some people who are from around here have said the same thing. And I felt it myself when I first moved to Vancouver from Chilliwack. I remember thinking it was my broadcast journalism program that was just unfriendly. I was like, I thought I was going to make so many friends. And then, suddenly it just felt like conversations would just like get stopped up when I'm trying to like chat away with somebody, and they would just like turn away from me while I was talking, and it was just like, what, this is weird. And I've kind of realized now, I was a naive Chilliwack girl who's just like an overeager converser, and people raised in Vancouver didn't have patience for this person who doesn't know their etiquette. And I know the etiquette now, and I don't like seeing it in myself.
Yeah.
The type of thing where I was at story time, doing my mom thing with Forrest. And there was there was another bunch of moms there, and one of them I chatted with a little bit. She sounded British, and Forrest started crying, and I scooped up all my stuff, and I was like, anyway, see ya. And I saw this look on her face like, what? Like, are we gonna, is this it? Okay, bye. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just did it. I just did that thing where you made a connection with somebody, and now you would say, what are you doing? Do you want to go for coffee? Or, do you live around here? Let's swap numbers, something like that. And there's this weird like threshold of anxiety when you have a conversation with somebody that it's like, and we're starting to get to a vulnerable point. Okay, bye.
Right,
and it's just so strange, but I
have
almost adopted it now, and I'm quite sure that it's a Vancouver thing, and it might be other cities as well, but in this particular city, it seems very rampant.
I think what might help is to find a way to make casual plans. Just be like, hey, be very inviting. Just hey, this is my address. Anytime, just knock on the door, or have more open houses. Just like reach out to everybody, or even have a block party. Because I know that this city, they do provide resources for block parties.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, absolutely.
Which would be kind of cool to have a mixer like that. And we have an awesome park too.
I think you're right. I think it is very much about like putting it out there to start having those types of community events, whether it's like your actual physical community in your neighborhood, or if it's like a community of friends or, like-minded people. So I think we've got to start being more intentional about making, I would really love to like make more traditional ritualistic type plans, like every second Wednesday of the month it's at our house, and every third Wednesday of the month it's at this person's house, or something along those lines. But also I think it's not just about making those plans, but it's also about breaking down some barriers that we have as people here.
And I think it starts with us. We haven't had any neighbors come to our door to say hi, and we haven't done that either. So maybe we do that. How about this? We challenge ourselves.
Okay.
Could in 1 week, how about this? We pick a random door. Or not a random door. Maybe.
How about those neighbors that we've been meaning to ask ourselves over for dinner for ages?
Oh, that's so nerve-wracking.
I'm not saying we have to invite ourselves over for dinner, but I'm just saying we should knock on their door.
But how do we make cookies?
It feels like you have to have some kind of like formal reason, you know?
like trick or treat. You know, that's how we met these people, but how do you have a trick or treat moment that isn't Halloween? It's do you bake them cookies? Like we did that for our downstairs neighbor when they moved in, but then we found out she had a severe nut allergy, and they couldn't. It's so bringing that food into their house is like dangerous.
Oh my gosh!
So that is like, oh no, what if we?
I always want to bring, because they're so lovely, and I always want to bring them food, and I'm just like, what can I do for you if I can't bring you food?
Yeah, right. It's crazy. But what can we do? Maybe,
we missed the boat when they had a baby, because we could have like shortly after come over with food. But this is this Indian family that we're talking about, the like multi-generational home. They've got people like they're not having a problem with meals.
And I've had a conversation with them in the past, but it's always like making vague plans in the future. That's kind of like, hey, they even offered, do you like Indian food? Come over sometime and we'll make it for you.
How do you get from those vague plans? Because that is so Vancouver. Everybody has intentions, like we'll hang out, we'll have a park day, or we'll, but it's so comfortable to just leave it in that vague, ambiguous state. And then as soon as it's time to actually make plans, it's like major anxiety.
Oh yeah, geez, I feel that. I didn't feel that when I first moved to the city. I remember I was starting a new business, and I was so excited. Every other day I feel like I was going out for coffee with people, and it was really good for me, and I was really excited. I'm super extroverted. I was saying hi to strangers and getting that response of just kind of like, whoa, you're in my bubble, but even though I'm just saying hi. Or I remember when we were in Stanley Park riding our bike, our two-seater bike through, is it two-seater?
Tandem bicycle.
Bicycle made for two. And I was waving at people, and they
both were.
We're
just like, hey, and some of them looked at us like we were crazy.
Yeah, they're just like, I don't want any drugs, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, whoa.
Then there was a couple of people that you could tell they weren't like all gone yet.
Yeah.
It was like it took them a while to realize somebody was actually saying hi to them, and then they're like, oh hi.
Yeah.
But it was like people are slowly being zombified to like not say hi to each other, not smile to each other, just like, or maybe you'll do that much, but as soon as it comes to a conversation that's longer than two swapped niceties sentences, then it's like, ooh, this is getting uncomfortable, or this is weird. Are you a weirdo?
Yeah.
I actually had that experience today in a coffee shop. I'm sitting and the ice was broken because I'm trying to get onto the Wi-Fi, and I'm like, I can't figure this out. So I said to this guy who's got his computer out next to me, I'm like, how did you get to the Wi-Fi? And he's helping me out and whatever. And then eventually, because I ended up having to make my own personal hotspot because the dang Wi-Fi didn't even work.
Ah, dang.
Yeah. But anyway, so he's like, so what do you do? And he started like talking to me and asking me questions. And this stupid little like Vancouver seed that was planted in me, it's just like, is this guy a weirdo? He's talking to me like more than just the thing that we needed to talk about.
So weird.
And then I was
what
like,
a weird guy.
I am currently researching the health benefits to having a village and a tribe, and I'm just gonna like shut this person down right now.
Sorry, I don't want to talk to you right now. I'm researching the health benefits of talking to strangers and meeting regular,
being social and
Oh,
so
man.
Anyway, I practiced being more open and just being more social, not being Vancouver.
Yeah.
And it was nice. It was very nice.
Oh, very nice.
He wasn't a weirdo at all.
No.
But, you know, there is this weird tendency to just be like, this person is like tiptoeing a little bit into my bubble, and so they must be a weirdo.
Yeah. I imagine we must be weirdos to some people.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure, especially in Vancouver.
But I think when we're together, it's like power in numbers, safety in numbers.
Yeah.
Is that a baby crying?
Oh, it is. Okay. Well,
you want to go give him a daddy hug?
Yeah. Okay. Pause for now, Daddy. And I think that was a false alarm.
Yeah.
I think
just put himself back to sleep. Hallelujah.
Wow. Good boy. You're a good boy, Forrest. Wow.
He's a really good boy. But yeah, I think we do weird people out, and we've got safety in numbers because we, we're kind of infectious when we get all riled up together. And so. Yeah.
But are we, like, that could be an insecurity of mine. Like, is it, sometimes people love it. Sometimes people get their energy from people like us. But I've had too many moments where people are like, look at me weird. I remember when
or we just make them uncomfortable. Like they just want you to tone it down a notch.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I think we're getting better at reading people on that. I was terrible at it for a while. I was just like way over the top. I think I was hard to connect with for a while. But honestly, I think a big part of starting to break down those barriers of becoming closer with people instead of just like the niceties and the proprieties. And I think you have to be willing to be vulnerable. Like you need to stop trying so damn hard to be perfect and to appear so perfect. Like you got it all together and like you're so confident and you know all these things and you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I think that you know this well. It's hard to let that guard down and tell people when you've been having a hard time or that you're having a bad day right now and that you're not in the best mood or all of those types of things. It's like we have to put on a happy face and and it's not about like dumping on each other all the time either, but it's just about like, I think asking for help in an energetic kind of way where you're not saying like, can you help me with something? But you're just saying, man, like I had such a rough night last night. I don't know what's going on with Forrest, but he's, having these issues. Like say, for instance, I'm talking to another mom and that's my invitation for her to give some kind of speculation on, oh, really? What, maybe have you tried this or that type of thing? And just being willing to appear vulnerable so other people can then see that you need help and try to help you. Yeah.
And be more casual about it. So how do we do it? How do we break down the barrier? Let's talk hypothetically about our next door neighbors who we've talked a lot about getting together and we know we've established that we are neighbors and we are nice. So what do we do to take the first step? I mean, do we have them over? But like we're neighbors, so I feel like it needs to be more casual. Like if you have somebody over, like especially us, I feel like we'd make too big of a deal about it, and that's why we're avoiding it, because it's like, oh, we got to clean the house and we got to impress these people. Like, but it's like that doesn't feel like the right community. It feels like there should be more of like the open door. Yeah, come over anytime.
Yeah, it should be more casual, because also like here, okay, I'm gonna go through in a second. This there's this psychology doctor that made a list of 7 different things that you can do to help you find your tribe.
Oh, a list. I like lists.
Yeah, like lists are really good.
Perfect.
But we go about these things so intensely, like, okay, so this is what we have to do now, and it just puts way too much pressure on it, and we don't even necessarily know that those are our people per se, like
right.
So one of the things in this, finding your tribe is be discerning. We need to be really clear on the kind of community that we want to attract and be honest about our own needs and be willing to communicate what those are, because, not everyone is going to necessarily fit into, this type of community that we want. So we do still need to set those boundaries. So, but that's not to say that we can't be friendly with our neighbors and get to know them and have dinners with them, but we don't necessarily need to, make this really intense effort to, they're our tribe, you know what I mean? Like we might still have very different ideals.
Yeah. Like that. Yeah. I like that. Kind of like a casual, you just you're more open to seeing them on a regular basis, and you kind of let them in a little bit more. So it's more, you're way more likely to hang out by the car and have a long conversation about something, or you continue a conversation you had before, and you slowly kind of understand this person more each time.
Yeah, the way that I would liken it to is there have been several times where I've been surprised at the friendliness of a stranger. Like, say, for instance, Mimi and Vicky that we met in Hawaii.
Right.
They're lovely. They're these two ladies from Orange County that went there as friends to Maui to just, have a vacation together. And one of them is just like this loud, brash, larger than life. And the other one's just like the sidekick that, always has like the funny thing to say to throw in there. And
they're perfect. They're a perfect match.
They're such a great match. I just love those ladies. And they just like adopted us like they're, I don't know, like their little brother and sister or something, and they loved Forrest. They were just so like cute. Auntie Mimi and Auntie Vicky, and it was so refreshing to have these people just so openly welcome us with, we were just in the same condo complex. That's the only thing we had in commmen.
How did we even? I think we just kept on running into them.
Yeah.
All these coincidences.
Well, and then they wanted to make plans with us to meet up at beaches, and we hung out with them on my birthday. And then when all that was done, we said goodbye, and that was just it. We met these lovely ladies, and now that's all.
Are we connected?
I've got her email address. I've got Mimi's email address. I think she follows us on Instagram now. But,
okay. Hey, maybe they'll listen to this podcast.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, initially I had to get over this whole, like, this has to mean something. Now we need to be friends, and we need to go visit them in California sometime. And, there's this weird intensity that you put on friendships when you make these connections. But when you can be more fluid with these things and not put so much pressure on them, then there's not so much at stake. Yeah. When you do start to make friends with somebody, or you do start to talk to a stranger on the street, if you invite this person over to a party that you're having, it doesn't mean now that you're going to be best friends. And like, we hang out once, and what if I don't like them? And now we're friends, and this is awkward. Right. It doesn't have to be so mercurial.
You don't have to commit as much. Oh, wow. Yeah. Kind of like our friend at the liquor store. It's like we have a reason to see him all the time, and we kind of catch up, and we feel like we know him, but not like know him where it's like, come to our son's birthday party, know him, but it's more like it feels good to see him and say hi. Yeah. And have a little conversation.
It feels good, and it doesn't have to be anything more than that in order for it to be good. Yeah. And healthy, So let's go through these steps.
Okay, so number 1 is...
So there's these 7, it's not steps exactly, but just 7 different ways that you can find your tribe. So one of them is set intentions, figure out, what it is that your limiting beliefs are, and get rid of them. So for instance, for us, it would be, everyone who talks longer than 20 seconds is a weirdo, or I have to be best friends with this person if this conversation gets too friendly, get rid of all of those limiting beliefs that we have. Right. And just,
or overvaluing your alone time. Because I was just thinking that a big part of it is like, I feel like we value our plans too much, but it's not to say that if you invite people into your life more, that's not like you're valuing your plans. It's just changing what you value about your time. It's not devaluing it. So
yeah. And other things like, we've talked about what it would be like to have family members living in the same household as us, and some of the things that we would have to give up, like less privacy, for instance.
Yeah. No, not as much time walking around the house naked.
Yeah. But, if you're walking around the house naked but depressed, what's the point of that?
Yeah, that's true. Which is the only real time that I walk around naked.
Is when you're depressed.
It's like, I need to get these clothes off.
Get them off me.
Yeah.
Another thing when you are trying to find your tribe is to remember you're special, but you're not really special. Like, sometimes we let our sense of being different or special get in our way of finding belonging with a group, because we are each unique and individual, but we are also a lot more alike than it might appear when we're having this mindset that we're very special. We'll almost like try and alienate ourselves from other people because we're special, and it's like this defense mechanism that we have to be special, and we can't be finding ways to relate to other people because that threatens this specialness.
Wow. Interesting.
So that's something we have to remember. We're actually not that special. We're not so special that we aren't alike in a lot of ways with other people.
But it's funny because our generation was told that we are special and like we are going to do great things, and it's just like all about us. Yeah,
it is really. We are definitely living in a world right now of, every man for himself. Mm-hmm.
Well, that shows on social media how everybody wants to paint themselves perfect or only wants to talk about the highlights of their trips. Like an example, a coworker got back from Hawaii, and because we're coworkers and we talk every morning, she's just like, it was awful. I got so sick. And it was just like, it was like a terrible trip for her. But on social media, it was like beautiful. And all the comments were like, so jealous. Wow, you're doing so great. And it's like, I think that connecting it back to that idea that we are so special, we feel like we need to project that out too. Like, wow, our lives are so awesome and so exciting. Look at like how special and great we are. We're fulfilling this idea that was set, brought down.
And it's
by
weird
our parents.
because I don't think, like, I don't want people to feel really bad about themselves if they are, somebody who does that as well. I'm sure that we all do it in some ways, trying to project our best selves. It's a product of our environment, of what we've really come to be raised in, which is like, a kind of me focused.
It's a very
mentality.
millennial trait. Mm-hmm. I mean, I
loved one of the things, in this, when I was doing this research, this article by Lisa Rankin, this psychology doctor. She was like, how do we find our people that we say, what are we doing tonight? I like that idea of like this, there's a reason why the show's Friends and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and Cheers and Community are all so popular, is because we're watching and living vicariously through these people who actually have that village that we desire innately. What are we doing tonight?
What are we doing tonight? I feel like I only really have that with you and Forrest.
Yeah.
But because we don't necessarily have the tribe and the support of that we would need to, like, for our child, a lot of the time is spent putting Forrest down and making and cleaning up the house and doing all this stuff, and there's not very much room for what are we doing tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
so
man,
that feels like it doesn't really exist as parents because we're so busy, and it's like getting a babysitter is so, it's like such an ordeal. If you and I want to go out together with some friends, that's just like, that can't happen.
Yeah.
Wow. Or we have to spend money to make that happen.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, we got invited to somebody's birthday party next Friday, so we have to find a babysitter.
Who?
Andy.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, of course. Oh, right on.
Birthday drinks,
water.
We're not that lame.
Yeah. It's
not lame to be sober. Sorry, I really need to take that back.
Yeah, wow.
But Carly, it's not just because we're parents.
No, yeah.
If we were choosing to do that, it wouldn't be because we're parents.
Yeah.
All right.
Good,
established.
Good retraction.
Thank you.
That was good.
Okay, so going down this list of other ways to find your tribe, surround yourself with like-minded individuals. It sounds like a really obvious thing, but I think people, it's easy to forget. If there's things that you like to do, like, neither of us really do that. I mean, maybe you with your work, me with, being a mom. I'm starting to find other moms that I can chat with. But I mean, it's not like I'll get along with all moms automatically because we're all moms. Like, you still need to find those people that have, like minds. Yeah.
Oh, it's so interesting. Recently I've been connecting with a friend, and you know who it is. And we have a lot of things in common, and we've known each other since high school. But I've always felt, I don't know if it's on both sides, but as kind of a sense of competition, like there's like a bit of a competitiveness between the two, instead of seeing how we're alike. It's like kind of like who's more successful or
it's more
who's better.
Egoic kind of look at it, right?
Right. At least from my side of things. And recently kind of breaking down that barrier and being more inviting to this person, it's like, wow, we actually have a lot in common and we can talk forever. And it was like, whoa. So it's like, as soon as you break that down, it's like, this is pretty cool. And like, yeah, so the like-minded thing is definitely
is big. Look for those like-minded people.
And don't be threatened by it. Don't be threatened by it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that goes to the step before, which is that you're special, but you're not special.
Yes. Right? They connect. Oh my gosh.
You're not, you don't have to defend your specialness and avoid being with this person.
Yeah. Oh, because I was like recently going through a whole bunch of old footage. I was the kid who was told that I was very special, and I think it's because all of my interests were very expressive, like performer. It was very obvious what I was talented at. And
which is lucky, man. That doesn't happen for a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But I was always told that I was special. And that really does a number to your ego. And so, like, looking back at this old footage when I was in my young years, I could just see it all over me. I wasn't as good of a listener because it was just like, how can this benefit me? Or how does this create an opportunity for me to shine? And it's so cringy, and I recognize it, and it's like, yeah, if you gotta just kind of let that go. And I've been having a kid actually really helps with that.
Because I don't know, we've talked about this before, where once you have a kid, it feels like something changes in you biologically. You are no longer like you have accomplished your biological task, and now the pressure is off for you to appear to be the best mate to somebody, basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the pressure is totally off. I really enjoy having a child for that reason. That's been the biggest change, is thinking less about myself and then realizing I'm less stressed out, or I'm just less concerned angsty overall. And that doesn't make sense. It sounds like a paradox, because when you have a kid, there's a lot more to be concerned about, but it just means you're there's a certain
level of anxiety in at least for us anyway, in our lives before we had a kid, that was like, oh, and I think it comes from that same place of like, I'm special, I need to do something special, and you're like, oh, how do I reach my full potential and do this thing that is inside of me that's so special? How do I like make it come to full fruition? And you're just like thinking it's got to be something to do with your career. You just need to like prove yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because I just ran into a friend, Megan, today, who I was talking to about this. After having a baby, I still love doing the things that I did before with work and all different types of avenues of creativity. I'm super jazzed about, but that pressure is off. I don't have anxiety about doing those things now and proving myself in those areas. It's now just because it's fun and I love it.
Yeah.
But it feels like biologically I achieved a purpose that, you know what I mean?
Oh man, it's so funny. I kind of get the fact that parents really, as soon as, your kids get married, it's common for the grandparents or the parents to really stress that
you're gonna have kids?
Yeah, if they get
that's a biological thing, probably.
No, but it's also just like, they're like, it does great things for your life. It doesn't seem like that, especially with our generation, because it's like all about ourselves and all about our lifestyle. But there's something so awesome about kind of letting things go, and that need to feel special. Like, what's more special than raising a child? And it takes you out of the focus, and you're still kind of doing something very special and very meaningful, but it's not really towards yourself.
Totally.
So how do we, because it's so ingrained, like even I find myself now being just like, oh, Forrest, you're so unique and so special, and you're you. But now that I say that out loud, it sounds super isolating.
Oh, it's like we need to get back to this, we are all connected, and we do things together collectively. Like, that's where we want to get to in order to be back in this like more village type of mindset, because we need to get in the mindset in order to actually live in that way, and so we need to really keep that in mind as we're raising him to, yes, encourage him and help him foster his skills, but help him see how he functions in a group and see how his skills are valuable in that way.
Right. Wow. Okay, so let's go back down the list. What have we covered so far?
Okay, so far we said you need to set your intentions and figure out, what your limiting beliefs are, and get rid of them. Then also remember you're special, but you're not special. So stop letting that block you from finding the ways that you are similar to other people.
And that ties into the set intentions, because you got to let that go,
yes,
right? You got to open yourself up.
Totally. Surround yourself with like-minded individuals in whatever way that would be, whether it's a spiritual community or it's an artistic community. Yeah.
And maybe, because like sometimes you can build your community based on kind of getting an upper hand, or not an upper hand, but helping yourself out more. So maybe like a more selfless approach, just kind of surrounding yourself with similar interests, not people that can help you in your career.
Totally.
Or more of like a networking circle.
Yeah, absolutely. Make it so it's not just about gaining something. You also want to give something, like go in as a contributor, because actually as soon as you feel needed, that is going to make you feel a lot better than just getting something. So, okay, those are what we covered so far. Another one is get rid of your judgment, as far as just like judging other people, a book by its cover or that type of thing, because somebody who actually might be awesome in your tribe could be the person standing in the grocery store next to you who dresses very differently from you. But you never know intellectually how you might really connect. So to just do away with that initial judgment. Like today, the guy that I talked to, he was definitely not in my demographic whatsoever. Just like different age range, different style, very different person from me. And I'm not saying that he was in my tribe, but that is just initial thing that comes up in your mind. Like, I don't know if you're a person I should talk to because we're different from each other, but that we just need to get rid of that.
Yeah.
Before, at least start to chat with somebody and get to know them before you make that judgment. Because the next one, of course, is be discerning. Right. That we talked about. Once you start to get to know somebody, do remind yourself of what your values are, and be okay with setting boundaries that protect those values, because you still want to have people in your tribe and in your village that are similar to you.
Because there are those psychic vampires out there that just drain your energy, and they're takers. And so you gotta protect yourself in that way as well.
Yeah, and I think maybe those people, the psychic vampire thing, I think those people have their tribe too. And in their tribe, they probably are not psychic vampires. Yeah. They probably are amongst people who that's the way they talk also. And they know how to listen to each other, because that's, you know what I mean?
Right. So I could totally be a psychic vampire to somebody.
Some people, absolutely. You just got to find your right people.
And a psychic vampire isn't a real vampire. It's somebody who kind of...
They just say, they drain your energy.
Yeah, they feed off of energy from other people.
I think maybe all of us extroverts do in some way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And not even know it, because I'm like, it's great, like talking, and if I'm calling somebody too much, like I don't understand how that could be draining.
Yeah. Oh, don't stress too much about it. I just like see you like going inward right now. Yeah. Okay, so the sixth component here to finding your tribe is to call it in, like call in your tribe. You can't just sit around and wait for people to find you. You need to actually put your desires out there, whether it's us going over to the neighbor's house and instigating it, or putting it out on social media that you're trying to put an improv group together, or, blogging about it, or putting it out there in some way, even just like yelling it out on a beach, just put it out there that the beach thing may not work. No, yeah. Maybe in like an energetic sense, but just putting it out there, what you want, what you're looking for in a tribe. And then, don't be shy, take action. Right. Actually swap your number with that lady at story time.
And then call them.
And then actually call them. Because then there's another lady I met at story time, and we did swap numbers, and I've never called her.
Oh my gosh.
I texted her that day being like, it was great meeting you.
Did she text back?
Yeah.
Oh.
Nothing since. But, mom life is really busy.
Oh, yeah, that you tell yourself.
But, like,
that.
Seriously, like our neighbors downstairs, we talk with them all the time about how we want to hang out. We're going to play games and do these things. And they're downstairs and we see them. We hang out with them maybe like once every 2 months.
Oh man, but I feel like I really need to almost aggressively protect their space. Like it's so important to me.
That's a thing, yeah.
It's a thing, but then anytime I'm like go down there and I knock and I peek through, they're always just like, what? Just come on in. Like then look at me weird. So I
know, right?
I feel like it's
so overprotective of like space. I think, I just really don't know.
Maybe that's just us.
It really might be. I don't really know how to, because we're trying to respect people's space. But I think in doing so and in being so dang Canadian about it, we're just like giving everybody a wide berth. You know what I mean? We're just like, ooh, I don't want to overstep the boundaries here. So I'm just going to give you a lot of space. I think that's where a lot of the problem comes from. Yeah.
I feel like out of this, we need to challenge ourselves, like actually set a public challenge to ourselves and then check up on and give ourselves accountability and then check up on give our listeners a chance to check up on us next week.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So, okay, what's it going to be?
Well, I know what it is.
What is it?
We got to reach out to our neighbors. Somehow knock on their door. We got to do it.
Are we going to come up right now with what it is going to be, or we just have to do it
within
no
the
matter
next
what
week?
way?
Within the next week, we have to. Those neighbors that we always see, and you told me the other day you were chatting up, and then you're like, "Oh yeah, I can't wait to hang out in the summertime."
Yeah, when it's summertime, our babies will be able to play together, like as though our babies can't hang out now. Like, yeah, her baby's only 5 months old.
No, but they also have a baby that's the same age as Forrest.
That's the other family living there, but still. Yeah. It's just like we make it's comfortable. It's way more comfortable to make these ambiguous plans for the future that you don't have to commit to right now. You're just like hoping that at some point there's going to be an icebreaker that makes this easier.
Yeah. And then there is, but then you invite everybody to it, like Forrest's first birthday. Oh, and there's just too many people here, and they're all people that you have or that we've made those kind of vague plans with, but you don't have the time or energy to give them that. Oh man, yeah, there were some moments in that at the party where I was like, there's just too much.
Yeah, it's almost like you need to break your tribes up into sub tribes.
Yeah.
So that you still get that quality time.
Yeah. We should do like family dinners, regular open invite dinners.
I agree.
With people.
I'd like that.
Afternoons, every Sundays.
Sundays are great.
Church is a thing too.
Yeah, that's really hard to get to though with Forrest nap times. I don't know how. You ever notice you don't see toddlers at church?
Oh yeah.
I think he's not a toddler yet technically, but babies and stuff not around his age anyway.
Excuses.
Excuses. Okay, well, yes, let's make this commitment
this week, and we will check back in
by next podcast. We will have. What exactly are we? We're just going to knock on their door and talk to them, or what?
And let's just say a neighbor. If they're busy this week, we go to another house. Oh my gosh.
Or we just need to be persistent.
Like,
what would the Italians of Roseto do?
But they would just walk in their kitchen, which we can't do. But I think that we should hang out. Just like have an impromptu hangout with somebody within 5 houses of us.
Oh man.
That's so scary, but we got to do it. We got to break the mold. I think
we just really have to put some thought into what the instigation is going to be, because right now I'm like, we got to like fake that we need a cup of sugar. You know what I mean? But we don't really, you don't really.
Well, we do have an excuse in a way, like
because of the baby?
We could just talk about ourselves, challenging ourselves. We can be meta about it. That is an icebreaker. It's not just, hey.
That's true.
Yeah. Hey, well, being neighborly, like what? Let's put ourselves in their shoes. If a neighbor came to our door and knocked on it and said, "Hey, we just want to meet you. We're your neighbors. Do you have a moment?" We would probably be like, "Yeah, that's super sweet." You wouldn't?
So it's just like, it depends, because if they're like inviting themselves in right now, that could be very inconvenient. Like I might just be, Forrest has got to go down for a nap right now, or, I've got a baby, so all manner of things. So it could be extremely inconvenient.
Oh my gosh. See, this is hard.
It is hard. Here's the thing.
If you have any suggestions, if you are listening to this and are able to comment on either this post or anything, please give us suggestions.
Yeah, we would really.
Or if you know us, just text
any
us.
Ideas on how to make friends with, not even make friends with. Why does it have to be make friends with?
No, yeah.
How to interact with your neighbors.
Be neighborly.
Yeah.
Because
hey, here's an idea.
Or make exact plans.
Here's the icebreaker. Here's what's going to happen. At some point, we go over to their house, and maybe it's just me, maybe this doesn't happen, but maybe on Sunday we do this together. We go over to their house, we knock on their door, have a chat at their door, and if they don't invite us in for tea or anything like that, which we shouldn't expect, but if they don't, then we say they should come over for tea to our house, maybe later that afternoon if they have time.
Yeah, maybe we don't make plans that are outside of 3 days.
Yes.
We have to do something and get to know somebody.
Yeah, I like it.
Oh, man.
I
just feel like in
plans.
my mind, I'm just like, everybody's so busy. Everybody's just way too busy. Nobody's going to, it's like, what, like who wants to hang out with us? Like my mind is just like spinning with all these reasons why we shouldn't do this.
But maybe we do still need to think, yes, people have busy lives. So it doesn't need to be that there needs to be plans in the next week, because that's just putting a lot of pressure on people's busy lives. But there needs to be some tangible outcome that brings us closer to getting to know them better. Like, we exchange phone numbers and we're going to try and get together in the next couple weeks or something like that.
Okay.
That's a little bit vague, but we are going to make an effort.
Yeah. I just think that like a time limit, like we have like a half an hour hangout with somebody.
Okay.
I feel like, yeah, we can do that.
At least a half hour.
We can do that for sure.
Okay.
We'll start with the neighbors across the street.
That's a good idea. Yeah, those ones that we've been meaning to get to know.
All right.
So, okay, before we go, I want to bring up one more thing, because I asked people on Facebook, like, what are some ways that they get that sense of connectedness, that village, you know what I mean? And I got some really good answers. So, for instance, Kerr said that Instagram has actually been the biggest catalyst for her meeting other people that are like in similar life stages as her, which I think is important for us to acknowledge as a legitimate thing, because we have poo-pooed social media a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that there are a lot of unhealthy ways to use social media. However, there's also a lot of community that you can find on there. Like, for instance, I'm a part of this mom group on Facebook that has made me feel not alone in a lot of situations that I've been in. I donated some breast milk through this group. I have gotten a lot of different solutions. Like, you do a post like, who has suggestions about these things? It's like that. It's, the whole like women gossiping together and sharing life stories while they do the laundry type of thing from back in like, tribal days.
Right.
But it's the modern way where we still are conversing and sharing stories and, supporting each other. But it's through social media. And yes, there are studies being done about how social media affects our mental health. But I don't think that it's so simplistic as that.
No,
I think that there are actually some benefits to be had. So I think
course.
Maybe,
not
relying on that alone, but still recognizing that you can get that sense of support in some ways. They're not going to come, necessarily like babysit your kid when you need them to. But so that's one thing. My friend Victoria said volunteering is a huge thing for her to feel a part of a community, which makes a lot of sense to me.
Oh, yeah.
Because once you're helping other people, you start to feel like you're needed, and it kind of a community forms. Working in a restaurant is another thing Jillian said, because they spend holidays like Christmas and Thanksgiving together a lot of the times because they have to work them.
Oh, yeah.
So that's another place that people get that feeling. Lori said either through work or joining groups or sports teams. Sports is a huge one, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And my mom commented, "Hey, Mom, community theater. That's something that I always grew up with.
What has community in the word?
I know, right?
So it makes
I
sense.
think theater in general, but especially community theater, because everybody's volunteering their time. So there's, I think maybe there's a little bit less ego involved. But I feel like there's a reason why, there's a come down after a play. I don't know if anybody who's ever been in a play before, after the play ends, everybody gets a little bit depressed. But that's because, you just lost a tribe.
Yeah.
You're not meeting every Wednesday and Thursday anymore, having all this fun going through a play. So that's a feeling that I am very familiar with. Mm-hmm. That, that tribe that you have for a while. So there's lots of ways to find tribe in your life, even in this modern society. Mm-hmm. But, it's not going to be the same way as the old villages in Rosetto.
Right.
We need to kind of find it in a new way.
Oh yeah, right on.
Yeah. So, and any contribution to this conversation, I don't think that this is done for us.
No.
This is a conversation that we're going to continue to have.
This will be ongoing.
Yeah. So any way that you want to contribute, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah. And check in next week to see what the results of our experiment.
Yeah, next week we'll see. We'll see.
Why is this so nervous? It's so silly that it makes me so nervous.
I think we need to, because we've been burned. We've been burned in Vancouver a lot.
Oh, yeah.
As far as just putting ourselves out there and then feeling stupid about it. And our etiquette is off now, because what's the right way to do this type of thing? Maybe we had better instincts when we were smaller town folks.
Yeah, but we haven't felt it from other people, so we can't even learn from our neighbors. When we moved in, nobody
came to welcome us or anything.
So,
and I definitely didn't hold it against them either, because I've never had that experience before.
No. So we'll be creative. We'll come up with something and we'll loop back around.
We'll report back next week.
Yes, we will. Oh, geez. All right. Any closing statements?
Don't let the city that you live in get you down. Be the person that changes things. Mm-hmm. And for the people who won't sway when you push a little bit with your friendliness, don't let them get to you, because they don't know what they're missing.
Right. Or in the words of Kyle Tubbs, are you going to let this place change you, or are you going to wait until the place changes for you? I think that's what the lyric is. It sounded a bit clunky. I think it's better, but you get it. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. That's exactly right. Okay, well, good night. I feel like a balloon losing air right now. Oh, yeah. Okay. Good night, honey. I hope we get to snuggle tonight. Yeah, me too. Probably not going to happen. Okay. Good night. Love you. Love you. Talk to you next week. Mm-hmm. Well, it looks like we have been challenged. Hey, you know what? Why not challenge yourself too? What's that connection you've been wanting to make but have been too chicken to stick your neck out for? Or do you need to get better at chatting with your neighborhood grocery store clerks? Tell us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram how you're going to open yourself up to finding your village, and we'll be your witnesses. Maybe we'll even be part of your village. Our pages and handles are all under Carly and Johnny for Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Search it and you'll find us. It's CARLY and JOHNNY. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to us in your favorite podcast app. See you next week.